You are listening to the Body Charge podcast, and I'm your host, Sandy Sanderson. Welcome to the Body Charge podcast. Today's topic is how buried emotions can create physical pain and disease. Therapists commonly look for possible causes of pain, inflammation, and diseases in terms of injury, toxic exposures, or bacterial infection. However, another major contributor is the toxicity of unresolved emotions that stay buried and unhealed, triggering physical symptoms and ill health. How do we cleanse from unresolved emotional issues to free us up to live our best lives? My special guest today is Amy Vincze, an expert emotional freedom technique, or EFT, coach and founder of the Soar with Tapping app. So welcome aboard, Amy. Lovely to have you on the Body Charge podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
So this is a big thing. We live at a time of big tumultuous events and changes on the planet and wars and rumors of wars. And, there's lots of fear and trauma. And we need to learn to be resilient. I mean, even watching some of the stuff going on can be traumatizing, especially for those that are have a lot of empathy, that are empaths. And so we need kind of strategies. So if you get stuck in emotions, how to pull yourself out of it, and also how to work out what long past traumas may have left behind that are unresolved, that are sabotaging us and preventing us from achieving our goals and, doing what we need to do in this life on our mission. Everyone having their own mission for the benefit of self and planet. We're all here part of that creational force, I guess, doing things in our own way. But, we can get sidetracked. So how do unresolved emotions cause physical symptoms in the first place? Can you give us some examples?
Absolutely. So what we know is that we get triggered many, many times throughout our day. And 99% of the time, we don't really know what has triggered us. But what happens is our sympathetic system gets triggered, the part that is all involuntary, like the systems in our body that are involuntary. We're talking about your heart beating and your immune system functioning and some things like that. So when the stress center in our brain gets triggered, it triggers us into fight or flight mode, which triggers our sympathetic system to take over. And so it does that by shutting down major systems in our body, shutting down our digestive system, shutting down our immune system, and really making those things unavailable until we can bring ourselves back to a state of calm and peace and deactivate that amygdala. So when that is happening because of unresolved trauma, unresolved emotions surrounding trauma, it happens many, many times a day. And you can imagine that if our immune system is shut down many, many times a day, and for prolonged periods of time, the amount of wear and tear that has on our body is pretty significant. Same with our digestive system. If our digestion is shut down many times a day, over time, that can wreak havoc on our small intestines, our large intestines, our ability to evacuate our body from, toxins that shouldn't be in there.
Yeah.
Wastes. Like over time, it really does create some significant things.
And also excessive stress causes a lot of magnesium loss, which is the very mineral, the master mineral we need to help calm down and get back to the rest and digest phase. And also that constant revving and revving and revving in the stress mode causes a lot of acidity as well. And that then inhibits energy, doesn't it? We feel chronic fatigue and, it's difficult to get motivated. And that can
Yeah.
translate to brain as well, because depression is just a depression of energy to the brain.
Yeah.
And so you're put into like a computer safe mode. Everything is sort of working, but very minimally.
Yeah.
And everything traces back to constant stress. So is
Yes.
it because, so when we're feeling this background stress, sometimes we don't even really know why, do we? It's not related to something we're doing at the present moment, but for some reason, the innate system or the subconscious part of the body hasn't realized that it's not in danger anymore, that it's still somehow rerunning this old memory. Can you explain how that happens?
Yeah. So our subconscious mind is constantly trying to keep us safe, constantly trying to keep us safe. So while, the trauma might be in the past, our subconscious mind remembers that and is constantly looking on the horizon for anything that resembles a threat similar to that. So, say the fear that resulted from a trauma is that, I have this big fear of rejection. But you're going throughout your day, maybe, you're at work but you're about to take on a project, or even, go out for a promotion, or even switch jobs to something that would be kind of outside of your comfort zone. That massive fear of rejection could be triggering you in those moments and preventing you from moving forward with it.
It's like
So,
this situation has happened before, therefore it
yes,
might happen again. And so
yes.
the feeling comes back, isn't it? That emotion returns unnecessarily.
Not
Yeah.
necessarily the emotion, but
Yep.
the fear of experiencing that emotion. That's what triggers the amygdala. That's what
Yeah.
rushes our body with cortisol. It's the fear of experiencing that intense hurt again. It's the fear of experiencing that heart-shattering kind of grief
Yeah.
over losing something so meaningful to you. So
Yeah.
we don't let ourselves feel that in general. It's too buried, but the fear of experiencing it is the thing that triggers us into that fight or flight mode. So that's why it's hard to make that connection, because we don't really feel it. We just fear it.
Yes. You're on guard all the time.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So with the process of emotional freedom technique, how did that evolve, and how does that work in practical terms for people? What kind of things do you do to help resolve those those fears of emotions?
So it evolved from like there was somebody that married kind of traditional psychotherapy with acupressure. He
Hmm.
was working with a client. She had a severe phobia of water, and he wasn't making any progress, but he was at the time researching Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, and he thought, well, she experiences this fear in her tummy, so why not let's just tap on the tummy meridian and see if it makes a difference. And for them, there was like a one hit wonder where she immediately lost her phobia of water, in a very short period of time. And so he kind of engineered this process called thought field therapy. And it was rather complicated in where you would tap depending on what type of issue you were dealing with. And so Gary Craig took it from there and kind of engineered it into what it mostly is today, which is that we tap on all of the energy meridians, talking about our feelings while we're doing it. So it has that energetic aspect. It has the cognitive aspect of talking about
Yep.
what it is we want to release. And there's also the somatic element, because while we're tapping on our body, we can't help but get grounded in the present moment and gather our energy back from worrying about the past and gathering it back from worrying about the future.
You're
Kind
made to
of
focus.
bringing our energy back into the present moment where it is the most effective and most efficient place for us to be. So When we're doing that, though, we're telling our amygdala to deactivate that sympathetic mode where, everything is shut down. And when we can, and it reduces cortisol in our bodies by 43% faster than if we had done nothing
Wow.
else. It's really significant, the research that's being done on this.
Amazing.
It lowers heart rate, it lowers blood pressure, and it increases our immune response because it's shutting down that sympathetic response.
Mm.
When it does that, though, it allows us to access that prefrontal cortex, that part of our brain that makes logical, informed decisions. We
Only
can't
when you're calm.
access it. Yeah, we can't access it when we're
Mm.
triggered,
Yep.
but we can when we tell our that part of our body to de-escalate, and then we can start to really process our emotions, access them, and think about them more logically instead of being, engulfed in the fear
Yes,
around
because
it.
that then puts all the energy, the blood flow, all the resources to the rear of the brain, the limbic system, which is the primitive part of the brain
Hmm.
that wants to escape from the lions and the tigers, but not
Yes.
thinking about where to go.
Yes.
And you could run off a cliff because you're not looking, right?
Yes, yes. So tapping is really designed to kind of help our body to and our subconscious mind to access those emotions, but doing it in the most peaceful and calm way by shutting down that, you know, really monkey brain response
Yep.
and allowing us to access our more logical parts of
Yeah,
ourselves.
that's a
So
good
then we can
expression, monkey
and
brain.
yes, and then we can actually release them from our body. That's when they actually release from our body. And we're retraining our brain to feel a sense of peace and calm around whatever topic it is we're focusing on as well. And in the process, we also teach ourselves and train that part of us that needs to work out an emotional muscle. It trains us to not be so afraid of the uncomfortable emotions and to allow them in a moment instead of pushing them away or denying them, which would then feed that amygdala response even more.
Yeah, the more you push away, the more you create the very thing you're afraid of because you're
Yes.
constantly focusing on it. So
Yes.
the reality goes where your consciousness goes, is an old saying. The more you think about something, the more you create that event.
And we want that to be voluntary, not
Yeah.
involuntary.
Yes.
So the process of taking that
Want
response
to
out of
create good
it is
things.
really, yes.
So don't be
Yes,
afraid
but
of the good things.
it takes really neutralizing all of that stuff from the past that we have not dealt with. It really requires kind of neutralizing that so it will never come back and kind of bite us in the butt
Yeah.
in the worst possible moments.
So it's a very mindful approach, but we
Hmm.
can't be mindful unless we calm down, as you said, the amygdala and
Yeah.
that stress, the hormone release of the stress response. Once that's calmed down, we can open up more doors in our prefrontal filing cabinet to get solutions and to
Yes.
see things clearly and not be afraid of seeing what happened, and accepting an event that may have been traumatizing, but realizing that that's in the past and
Yes.
not bringing it into the present. So that's a tricky bit, isn't it? This
Yeah.
time thing.
Yes. Yes. And I love the way you said it because if people are allow themselves to be really present in this moment, 9 times out of 10, there is no threat in this present moment. There really is nothing at risk unless they compare it to the past. In the present moment, they're likely in different relationships and different environments where there isn't that kind of judgment, criticism, risk of being hurt in any way. And it really benefits us to look at things from that perspective and see things more clearly. If we're looking through the lens of the past, it will always be clouded. If we're looking through the lens of the present, everything is as clear as possible.
Yes, so it's helpful to have a coach, which comes back to the EFT system. When someone is there helping to guide you, it is easier to be focused. It is easier to rein into the present moment because someone is there showing the way and
Hmm.
guiding. Listening to your voice, feeling the tapping, focusing on that electrical system, which is connecting, as you said earlier, body, mind, and soul, right?
Hmm.
Everything is coming together into one space. Um,
Yes.
and and in that space, you see more clearly, and you're not clouded by the old emotions or the fictions or the things that you have come to believe that are not true or not true anymore.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, so you see the
Absolutely.
truth more clearly, and then you're anchored in that truth. And
Yes.
so the prison is opened and you can fly free. So,
Yes.
so these emotions, I think a lot of people think that, well, they're just very ephemeral or they're just ideas and, get over it. It's hard for people to realize when another person has had a severe trauma, what physically happens. It's a really physical pain, this unresolved emotion. It's a pain often described to me by people as worse than a if you injure yourself physically, if you've had an operation or you're in a car accident, you had like a physical kind, that is a more manageable pain than the emotional pain. I find that quite fascinating. And yet people disregard the importance of managing emotions.
And they have for
Yeah,
hundreds of years, right? We've
yeah,
never been encouraged to indulge our emotions unless they're the shiny, happy ones, right?
yeah,
So, and men in particular, they're only encouraged, or well, not maybe encouraged, but the only emotion they're allowed is anger. Everything else is seen as complete weakness. And for women, if they get accused of being emotional, are you on your period
histrionic.
right now? You're
Yeah, yeah,
hysterical. You don't know your own self if you have an emotional outburst. So this really is kind of uncharted territory and
yeah,
and really kind of the next wave of
yeah.
advancement for us as human beings, I believe.
I
I mean,
agree. I agree because every day, almost on the news, well, here in Australia anyway, there's something about the mental health issue and
oh
government
yeah,
policy and putting more money into mental health and not having enough staff to help people in the medical industry with mental health. It's a constant meme and theme, isn't it? So obviously, problems aren't being solved. These issues aren't
right.
being dealt with, and you can't just give it a drug and numb
Hmm.
it and dumb it because it's
Right.
not going to go away. It'll just make you more sick, right?
Yeah, yeah. And even 95% of doctors agree that most of what we experience in our physical body is due to stress. And
Yeah.
stress is being triggered in our amygdala. And what are we triggered by? We're triggered by unexpressed emotions from traumas and past experiences. And so once we make that connection and start really giving our emotional sides of ourselves the attention and the honor really that they deserve. I mean, we definitely have decided that taking care of our physical body is important. We've definitely decided
Yeah.
that taking care of our spiritual body is important. And same with our intellectual body when we're constantly exercising our mind. So when we start to do that with our emotional selves and we really get that emotional flexibility and some strength in our ability to understand and have awareness about what it is we're feeling, then we're going to experience a lot better results with our physical bodies, our spiritual bodies. Like everything is going to come together. I see it happening. It's
Yeah.
like, um, domino effect
Yeah. Yeah.
where when we start to really acknowledge and honor and give our emotions their day in court so that we can release them from our body, the transformation that people will experience will be truly eye-opening for the world, I hope.
it's getting to know yourself better, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
the old saying, know thyself, and that then gives you more confidence.
Yeah.
And what we're taught is to ignore and not to look and to look outside all the time and to look at other people and look at what the media is feeding you. But this introspective part isn't really encouraged enough. We are we're actually taught indirectly to be separate from one another, whereas I think the innate human nature is to crave love and connection and relationship with others. But if we're behind this wall of fear, it separates us constantly. And the
Hmm.
separation itself is very stressful.
Yeah. Yeah. I really believe, and maybe you do as well, that there really are just two fundamental feelings and emotions in the world, and it's love and fear. And if you be able to feel if you are moving forward with an essence of love as opposed to an essence of fear. And if we can shift over into that love idea with love for ourselves, love for the people around us, then that connection that we are constantly craving will be so much easier. But we have to be able to tap through the fears. We have to
Have the
honor and,
strategy. Yeah, the
yeah, with the
strategies.
strategy.
How you know, you might have a goal to play the piano, but you need someone to give you a bit of coaching along the
Yes.
way.
Yeah.
It's just how to do something. And once you learn, you know how to do it, and you can then share with others, as obviously you've done.
Hmm.
And so these are the Body Charge podcast is all about, showing people strategies and ways to self-care because it's about making a decision that you want to improve, knowing this is very important, knowing that you can, that nothing is impossible. It doesn't
Hmm.
matter what obstacles may be in the way or that you perceive are in the way. You have the power to overcome anything. So this is the power of intention. Well, and then, we put out to the right kind of people and the right kind of information to show up in our lives that give us the tips and all the information that we need to fulfill that intention. And then we have to have faith, right? We have to have faith in going forward that doing those things will work. And once you invest yourself and invest in yourself, everything starts to work. You are participating in a kind of a miracle, aren't you?
Hmm.
A
Hmm.
miracle of renewal,
Yes.
and healing.
Yes. And compassion for ourselves, first and foremost. And then once we have that for ourselves, then it's so much easier to give to other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my business is Elektra Magnesium. You
Hmm.
might like to have a look at our website, electromagnesium.com.au. So we supply a range of transdermal magnesium products. People can massage into their skin and muscles and feel calm, which helps the physical side of things and the energetic side of things. But then we need to have the therapists coming in to help guide the mindful process of how to go through and unravel those old knots. So you
Hmm.
really need to have a lot of things coming together at the same time to resolve whatever was triggering all that stress
Hmm.
and remove it, clean it up. It's really housekeeping, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. And it has to be quite methodical, and it's not always easy work. It takes kind of dredging up some uncomfortable feelings and memories, and hopefully do that with like a trained tapping coach. And then the app is there to help kind of subsidize that experience
Yeah.
with a trained professional. Yeah,
How does your app actually work? Can you explain a little bit to people and then give them the link to where to go to find out more?
absolutely. So when I created the app, what I noticed that was out there on the market at the time offered like a really light version of what tapping can do, meaning that it would only touch kind of the surface issue and deal with general anxiety in a moment, basically putting a band-aid over what you're feeling in a moment. And sometimes that is very necessary. As you're going through your day, sometimes you need a band-aid so that you're not gushing blood as you continue to move forward,
Yeah.
right? But my goal was to really be able to utilize and harness the full power of tapping. So that meant being able to help guide people to the root of the problem rather than only focus on the symptom. And there are on the app right now, there's 160 plus tapping scripts available. So there's everything to deal with putting a band-aid on in the moment. But there's also the ability to deal with things at the core level, healing from the root of the trauma, and not the trauma itself, because that has to be done with a trained professional, but the fears that were created from directly from the trauma, things like fear of rejection or fear of abandonment or fear of not being worthy and deserving, fear of our bodies, that sort of thing. Those foundational fears are there, and they work at a very deep level to dislodge the, like I said, the root cause, the spark at the very, very center of the fire, you
Yeah.
know.
So maybe as a child, you may have been told, oh, you'll never amount to anything, or stay in your lane. And, you know, your dreams of becoming an airline pilot are way off the planet, and it's not never going to happen. And so a lot of the time children take on board these negative ideas as though they were
Absolutely.
reality, and it gets
Absolutely.
stuck in the back there somewhere,
Yeah.
so that whatever they try as adults to achieve, they're sabotaging themselves because this old viral program is still operating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why it's important to neutralize those first. I mean, we can spend a lot of time working on tapping on just the symptoms, but the symptoms will keep reoccurring if we don't neutralize it at the source. And people might assume that tapping doesn't work or, something along those lines, but we're not really harnessing the full potential. So with the app, I kind of set out to make both options available to people. And then there are a lot of videos that will outline the process for how to deal with some of the bigger topics like depression
Mhm.
or anxiety, where to start and how to proceed from there in order to get the most effective, fastest results from
Yeah.
using this tool. So that was my main goal with creating the app.
Yeah, because sometimes a bit like Russian dolls, isn't it? Once you unravel one layer, or like an onion, there's something else behind that you didn't see. And then you unravel that, and oh
Always,
no, there's something else there. So you have to keep, as you said,
always.
going to the root, getting
Yeah.
to the beginning,
Yeah.
until it's all solved and dissolved. So,
Yes.
so this is interesting that you have an app, because people can do it privately and on their own, just to,
Mhm.
investigate and start to research and start to explore, something in private where there's no fear. There's no fear of being with someone else and maybe revealing something you're afraid of revealing. Just start with yourself with layer one, right? And
Yes.
and then you'll get enough confidence to go to layer two, and so
Yes.
on.
Most people, when they first come to see me, they often talk about how cathartic it feels to just say the words out loud. Oftentimes these are spinning thoughts in our head and they never have a place to land. They never actually get released from our bodies.
Yep.
So saying the words out loud is really cathartic and important for people and
While
just
you're tapping. Yeah.
yeah, while you're tapping and
Because that energy is then physically flowing around, and the
yes,
electrical energy carries the information to all the cells
yes.
of your body.
Yes, yes. And so it's so important to do the work and just try it. There's no harm in trying it at all. You can't hurt yourself in the process.
Mm.
You will only achieve, some measure of success depending on how much time you dedicated to it. But most people that have gone through this process with me have finished one tapping round and immediately recognized the benefit of using this tool because they immediately feel calm, they feel way more centered, And just
Focused.
imagine if you
Yeah.
provide that, if you apply that to some big things that are preventing you from getting what you want in your life.
Yes, I think we all need to feel free and not
Hmm.
have those old shackles left on. We need to be our best self and be powerful in the world in our own way, in our own circle of activity. We need to feel like we can get things done and we can create, we can have an effect. We don't need to feel like we're prisoners or victims or powerless, because that makes us sick. That
Yeah.
mental state is actually illness.
Yes. Yeah. That is a blockage in our system, and it means that our body is not operating as it should.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let people know where they can go to find you. What's your website?
The website is soarwithtapping.com. They can also look in the Apple or Google Play stores to find my app, Soar with Tapping. But for your listeners, if they go to soarwithtapping.com/podcast dash special, they'll find a code that they can input into the app for 50% off of their first annual subscription.
Oh,
I'm
fantastic.
I'm also on social media. I do like a daily tapping thing with my followers just to give them a little gift and hopefully make it easier to get through the day.
Yeah, so it's at Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, all the
Um,
things, Facebook, Instagram,
yeah.
TikTok, YouTube. Yeah, all
Sometimes
of it.
helpful to watch someone give you a demo
Mm-hmm.
on a video, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And all of the videos that are on the app are also on the website. So if somebody doesn't want to download the apps, they'll still have a really good guides for how to get started on their own and how to move forward with some of the issues that they might be struggling with.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been a really interesting conversation. I'm sure people will get a lot out of it, and hopefully they'll share it far and wide. This is so useful, so empowering for people.
I hope so. Thank you for having me, Sandy. It was a fun conversation.
Yeah. Bye bye. I hope you liked this conversation and will share it with others. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. If you want to listen to other Body Charge conversations, click like, subscribe, the bell icon, and click all notifications. Subscribe to our newsletter to get updates on blogs, podcasts, videos, and magnesium special offers at electromagnesium.com.au. Relax, recharge, and recover.